They were beings of light and shadow, whispered about in the flickering glow of firelit longhouses, neither gods nor humans, yet ever watching from the edges of the mortal world. The Old Norse called them Alfar, a word soft on the tongue but heavy with meaning. To the Norse, elves were not the delicate winged sprites of later fairy tales. They were radiant spirits, powerful, alluring, dangerous. They could bring life and fertility to the fields, or death and curse without warning. They were the dwellers of the unseen, a realm parallel to our own, woven into the roots of the cosmos. And while time has buried their stories beneath Christian reinterpretation and fantasy cliches, the true elves of Norse myth remain as enigmatic as starlight shimmering in an ancient forest. These are not Tolkien's gentle immortals, nor are they mischievous tricksters of folklore. They are older, wilder, and they carry the echo of the dawn, when gods and spirits still shape the bones of the 9 realms. When we speak of elves today, we often think of manicured beauty, pointed ears, and immortal grace. But in the Viking Age, the concept of the Alfar was fluid, more spiritual than physical. The Prose Edda and Poetic Edda, our major sources for Norse cosmology, offer only tantalizing fragments about them. We are told that they dwell in Alfheim, the realm of light. Snorri Sturluson, the medieval Icelandic author of the Prose Edda, writes of 2 kinds of elves, the Ljósálfar, or light elves, who live in Alfheim, and the Dökkálfar, dark elves, who dwell beneath the earth. Yet beyond that sharp division lies a mist of uncertainty. Scholars still debate, were these 2 truly distinct species, or did they represent different moods of the same spiritual race, shades of grace and corruption intertwined? The earliest Norse poems hint that elves once held a status equal to the gods. The goddess Freyr, god of fertility and prosperity, was said to rule over Alfheim. This domain was not simply a land of beauty, it was a gift from the gods themselves, a token of divine power. In this we glimpse something profound, the elves as custodians of life's brightness, vessels of creation itself. But like all powers in Norse cosmology, that brightness had its opposite. The same forces that made things flourish could also make them decay. When crops failed, when illness came, people often blamed not demons, but elves, angered or slighted by human neglect. Thus the elves stood at the threshold of human existence, both protectors and punishers, always demanding reverence. To trace their origins, we must plunge into the deep mists where myth bleeds into memory. Unlike the Aesir and Vanir, who feature prominently in the sagas, elves belong to a more ancient stratum of belief, perhaps predating Odin himself. Some scholars link them to ancestral spirits, others to nature deities. In Old Icelandic literature, the term Alfr sometimes appears interchangeably with Disir, female guardian spirits, or even the dead. In that sense, elves were not just celestial beings, but echoes of one's lineage, guardians of the bloodlines that sustained Norse clans. When a person died, their spirit might become bound to the earth, lingering near burial mounds, watching descendants from the unseen. Offerings were left to them, bread, ale, meat, to ensure good fortune. And so, elves were not simply others, they were family. Yet, even as Christianity spread through the north, the belief in elves refused to die. It adapted like mist through a ruined temple, changing its shape, but never truly evaporating. The church could not easily destroy what people felt in their bones, that the land was alive, that unseen eyes watched in the twilight, that gratitude and fear toward nature's hidden spirits were bound to survival itself. Thus, medieval clerics began transforming the elves into lesser spirits, sometimes conflating them with angels, sometimes with demons. This duality, light versus dark, heaven versus earth, mirrored older Norse divisions. The light elves, radiant and celestial, could easily be reimagined as angels. The Dark Elves, subterranean and grim, as fallen ones. But in their true form, the elves were morally complex, just like the cosmos that housed them. If we turn our gaze to language, clues begin to shimmer. The Old Norse term Alf is ancient, possibly related to the Old High German Alp, meaning an otherworldly being or a spirit that causes nightmares. The very origin of the word nightmare through the mythic Alpdrucken. These connections hint that Norse and Germanic peoples once shared a fluid concept of elves as entities moving between blessings and curses. They were not whimsical fairies, but deep-rooted forces of the psyche and the soil. The elves could bestow inspiration upon poets and warriors, their touch stirring the soul like lightning through the heart. But that same touch could also wound. To encounter an elf was to confront something ineffable and dangerous, a truth about the world's hidden balance. When trying to classify them, Snorri's distinction offers a starting point: Ljósálfar and Dökkálfar. The light elves are described as fairer than the sun, radiant beings dwelling in Alfheim, bringing fertility and prosperity. They were said to be so pure that their presence illuminated the air. The dark elves, in contrast, are blacker than pitch, living in the below realms, sometimes conflated with dwarves in later texts. Whether the dark elves and dwarves were originally distinct races or mythic cousins is still debated. Yet, thematically, they serve two sides of one coin. The light elves representing growth and life-giving magic, the dark elves embodying craft, death, and the hidden powers beneath the earth. Some traditions suggest there may even have been a third class, the Svartalfar, or Black Elves. The Prose Edda mentions Svartalfaheimr, the land of the Black Elves, but curiously uses it interchangeably with the realm of the dwarves. This duality reinforces the motif of reflection within Norse cosmology. Upper and lower worlds mirroring each other, light and shadow intertwined. The light elves and dark elves are spiritual opposites, yet neither entirely good nor evil. They are instead expressions of cosmic equilibrium, growth and decay, birth and burial, the radiant skies and the cold roots of the world tree. The light elves themselves may once have been akin to personified fragments of sunlight, their beauty linked to the sky's glow at dawn and dusk. The poetic image of them being brighter than the sun might not be literal, but spiritual, a way of conveying divine life energy. To the Norse mind, the world was filled with agency. Every stone, stream, and forest had presence. The elves were that presence, distilled into awareness. In Alfheim, they reflected nature's purity and harmony. Yet the very idea that such beings could bless or blight mortals spoke to their moral ambiguity. They were gods of neither Asgard nor Vanaheim, but intermediaries, a bridge between humanity and divinity, between soil and spirit. Conversely, the Dark Elves evoke the mystery of the underworld. Blacker than pitch, they were said to live deep in caverns, working metals and shaping strange artifacts. While Snorri draws a distinction between dwarves and dark elves, the sagas blur that line almost completely. In fact, several dwarves, such as the sons of Ivaldi or the legendary craftsman Brock, are said to dwell in Svartalfaheimr. To the Norse storytellers, the difference between elf and dwarf may not have been rigid at all. It may have represented a single continuum of beings connected to different aspects of nature's power. Where the light elves embody illumination and inspiration, the dark elves, or dwarves, embody creation through darkness, forging, shaping, transforming. Both are makers, one of life, the other of matter. In this way, the elves form part of a broader Norse metaphysics, one where nothing exists in isolation. Gods, giants, humans, and elves each move within the same web of word, the tapestry of fate that binds all realms together. The Aesir and Vanir rule, yet even they respect the elves, offering sacrifices to secure their favor. In the Ynglinga saga, we read of kings sacrificing to elves for harvests and health. This practice, Alfablot or elf sacrifice, was carried out privately, often by women, within households. It was a moment of communion between human and spirit, a reminder that the boundary between seen and unseen was thin. Through Alfablot, elves received offerings, just as gods and ancestors did, the sign of their importance in Norse religion. The Light Elves, therefore, represent more than luminous spirits. They are the archetype of grace within balance. To disregard them was to invite misfortune. To honor them was to harness the world's hidden rhythm. And as we will discover, their home, Alfheim, was not merely a mythic paradise, but a reflection of how Norse cosmology intertwined beauty, mystery, and danger within every living thing. If the Light Elves were the heartbeat of creation's grace, then Alfheim was their breath, a realm suspended in radiance, shimmering somewhere beyond the reach of ordinary sight. Described as one of the 9 worlds rooted in the mighty Yggdrasil, Alfheim stands at the threshold between Asgard, the home of the gods, and Midgard, the realm of humans. It is a place neither fully divine nor mortal, a sanctuary of eternal mourning where the air hums with vitality. The Eddic texts tell us that Freyr, one of the most beloved of the Vanir gods, was gifted rulership over Alfheim as a child, marking it as a land synonymous with growth, pleasure, and renewal. When the wind brushed over ripened fields, or when spring's first blossoms unfurled from the thawing earth, the Norse believed they were feeling the grace of Alfheim itself, the touch of elven joy in the mortal realm. Yet much of Alfheim remains unseen even in myth. Unlike Asgard with its warrior gods and golden halls, or Jotunheim with its giants and storms, Alfheim was defined not by walls and heroes, but by essence and radiance. It was the realm of pure spirit, inaccessible through physical travel and reached only through ritual, vision, and death. In this sense, Alfheim wasn't merely somewhere else. It coexisted invisibly with Midgard. Touching the world of men through the softest moments, sunlight on dew, a whisper across the birch trees, the strange stillness before dawn, and within that gentle touch resided the power of communion between realms. For the Norse, Alfheim was both a mythic homeland and a metaphor for life's luminous undercurrent, the force that makes things grow, live, and remember. In many Icelandic sagas and later folk accounts, elves were believed to emerge from mounds, Alfhólar, grassy hillocks thought to hide openings into their world. Travelers passing near them would leave offerings, knowing that disrespect or disturbance could bring misfortune. The blending of Alfheim, the celestial abode, with these earthly mounds reveals something profound about Norse spirituality. The idea that the divine could manifest right within the soil itself. Every hill might be an entrance, every wind a whisper from Alfheim. Thus, the realm of the elves was not confined to the heavens, but mirrored within the living earth. This dual presence, both near and unreachable, gave elves their haunting allure. They were always close, yet forever beyond reach, guardians of beauty that could never fully belong to mortals. The connection between elves and fertility made them central to rural rites and seasonal festivals. Each year, as the long winter released its grip on the Northlands, offerings would be made to ensure that the hidden powers of the land awoke in kindness. Milk poured upon stones, bread left beside streams, or libations poured into the earth. These gestures honored the unseen forces that animated growth. The Alfablot, or bloat of the elves, was particularly significant, though shrouded in secrecy. Unlike the grand public sacrifices to Odin or Thor, the Alfablot was private, intensely personal. It was often led by women, the Gilder or household priestess, who invoked the blessings of the elves upon the family, crops, and livestock. To the outsider, it may have looked simple, a whispered prayer in the dark. But for those who believed, it was a negotiation with the unseen, a pact of harmony. Through these rituals, we can see how elves fit into the larger Norse worldview, a cosmos alive with invisible consciousness. The distinction between gods, spirits, and ancestors was fluid. The categories were felt, not rigidly defined. Elves were sometimes treated as divine emissaries, other times as ancestors returned. A dead man of great renown might be called an Alfheim, honored as his spirit continued to guard the kin. Burial mounds were often seen as portals, homes where the elf spirit of the deceased might dwell. Thus, Alfheim extended into the realm of the dead, just as much as it hovered among the stars. The elves existed on both sides of life, in the shimmer between birth and decay. One of the most poignant aspects of this belief is how it blurred the moral spectrum. The elves could bless you with bounty or strike you with wasting illness, depending on your respect toward the unseen world. Illnesses and fevers were sometimes blamed on being elf-shot, invisible arrows fired from their world. Remedies involved rituals of appeasement, songs, charms, and small gifts returned to nature. This relationship between humans and elves was not submissive worship, but mutual recognition. Humanity depended on them, but they too seemed to need human reverence to stay connected to the living world. Without that spiritual exchange, the balance would falter and the world's life force might wither. The Norse people, whose survival hinged on the rhythms of nature, understood this balance deeply. When Christianity swept across Scandinavia, the faith of the land slowly changed, but the elves lingered in the peripheries. They could not easily be exorcised from the human heart, because they were not merely myth, they were experience. The shimmering air at midsummer, the hum of life beneath snow, the still presence in a moonlit grove, all these felt like the work of elves. Instead of being banished, the elves transformed under Christian influence. The old Alfar became fairies, angels, or demons depending on the storyteller. Folk tradition continued to treat them with respect, often referring to them as the Huldafolk, the hidden people. In Iceland, belief in these hidden beings persisted well into modern times, and remarkably, still does today. Roads have been redirected to avoid disturbing elf stones. Construction workers have delayed projects out of respect. What began in Alfheim thousands of years ago still breathes through the Icelandic wind. Modern culture has taken that breath and reshaped it into art and fantasy. From the poetic imagination of J.R.R. Tolkien, who deliberately drew upon Norse sources, to the legions of contemporary writers, filmmakers, and game designers, the Norse elves have evolved into countless forms. Tolkien's elves of Lothlorien and Rivendell were not mere inventions of whimsy. They were reinventions of Ljósálfar, preservers of ancient wisdom and beauty against the decay of the world. Yet, in fantasy literature, their complexity often softened into idealized beauty, stripping them of much of their darker mythic essence. The Norse elves were ambiguous forces, embodiments of both grace and terror, not purely benevolent guardians, but mirrors of nature's duality. In modern retellings, some stories have tried to recapture that shadow. The elves who are aloof, proud, and dangerous. The shining ones who guard mysteries beyond human reach. Popular adaptations, from fantasy novels to video games, continue to reimagine Alfheim. In modern media, it has become the realm of ethereal forests, bioluminescent skies, and untouchable serenity. Yet beneath these visual spectacles lies an ancient truth still intact. The idea that something sacred hides within nature, something sentient and watching. Even in an age of technology and reason, humanity remains drawn to the mystery of the hidden folk, to that quiet belief that not all worlds are meant to be seen. Culturally, the elves represent more than myth. They are symbols of memory and meaning. They remind us of the reverence our ancestors held for creation's harmony. They challenge us to see the world not as a resource, but as a living entity imbued with awareness. The Norse did not simply believe in elves. They interacted with them through ritual and relationship. This act of reciprocity, even if now forgotten, underpins the enduring power of elven mythology. It speaks to something timeless within the human soul, our yearning to belong within the cosmic choir. And that yearning still resonates. When we imagine the elves today, whether in fantasy, folklore, or the quiet rustle of the wind through birch leaves, we are reaching toward that ancient conversation between worlds. The Norse Alfar may have retreated into myth, but their story continues to glow at the heart of our storytelling, whispering of a time when magic was not fiction, but faith. If the gods embody will and fate, the elves embody memory and possibility, the shimmer between what is and what might be. They stand at the doorway between mortal perception and divine wonder, forever inviting us to look beyond the veil. And if the voices of the Old North still whisper to you, if their myths ignite your curiosity and their mysteries invite you to dream, then do not let the flame dim. Like, share, and subscribe to journey even deeper into the hidden realms of ancient lore and forgotten power. Continue exploring with us and keep alive the wonder that the world is far more magical than it appears.